Good evening. How's everybody?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm just peachy. I'm excited to be here. All right. Okay. Well, it's the last mile. I bet y'all are excited. Oh, that's great. Let me start my video back up now that I'm sharing. Come on, you can do it. Okay. All right, I've got 7 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is Mels 603, the 15th session of the 17-week spring of 2020 session of Mels 603, Law and Finance. Thank you for joining me tonight. I anticipate if you can not, if you can keep me from talking too much, that this should be a rather straightforward and short session tonight. Our topic this week was sexual harassment. We had our 15th and final discussion board was to look at the Principal's Guide, Chapter 13, on the case in there, and to make sure you do your research and research your district's policy on sexual harassment. We're also going to briefly dip into the future of public education, and we'll open it up for any other questions that you might have. And so that's where we are tonight. And so I will start out with a gift to you. And so if you look under our last session, you will see a document that says SIP template. And you said, but Dale, we weren't going to get any more templates. Well, we're going to give you one for the SIP at the end. The directions are so long and it is so involved. I wanted to make sure that you have one. And so as you go into your last semester this summer, you're going to go into the CAP first. And it will be the last of the 6 evidences that you have to do original work. Once you finish the CAP, all of your original work will be done. And at that point, you will compile it into a working copy of the school improvement plan. And so the directions are there. And so what I have done is told you for each of the individual tasks for the SIP what you are to copy and paste into your document. And so you can use this template here or you can create your own. So for example, in task 1, under background and information description and setting, use the one for skip task 1, prompt 1. And then for the first prompt, it tells you where to go and what to get and copy and paste. Now you may need to do a little linking narrative, and just like you did when you used the first 3 tasks of the APTEL as OMA task 2, please remember to take the labels. So for example, APTEL task 1 through 3, make sure you take the APTEL task and prompts, APTEL task and prompts and labels out and put it in there. So for each of these 6 that you have, it tells you where to go and what to get. Read them carefully so that you get the right things from the right places. Now, hopefully when you did your action plan in the app cell, your professional growth plan in the app tail, uh, your master schedule in your OMA, the marketing plan in the skip, the cultural advocacy plan in the CAP that you do next semester. You summarize that plan in a graphic organizer that looks similar to this. If you didn't, you'll have to create one. The task 5 of the SIOP is to put all this together in a working document, a graphic organizer that you could use as kind of a checklist. You should have this already, and it'll simply be a copy and paste. That's why I've encouraged you, just like this semester, when you wrote your narrative for your marketing plan, if you didn't have the graphic organizer, just go ahead and do it now. It'll save you a lot of time later while you still got it in your head. And then of course you'll do the graphic organizer will be required in task 5. A PERT chart will be optional if you want to do that as well. It's not an either or. They'll send them back if you don't have a graphic organizer, because it must be a consolidated plan that you could look at and say, I know what I got to do every month. It can't be random, or it must be linear. This month we do this month we do that, and who does what, where, and when, and why, and where the money's going to come from. Because that's the way when they send you the template from your school, from your district office, that's what it looks like. It has to be a graphic organizer who'll do what, when, and where, and why. And then you'll do you'll do another round of competency analysis as you do every semester. You'll do another round of that as task 6, and then you'll be done. So please remember, if I were you, I would download this now. It's under our last week's tab. So if you look under Zoom session 15, site final evidence template, I would download that now and save that in a place where I would remember where it is. So going forward, please remember that in your shell, I've also put you some materials now. I would download these as well. I have put 2 South Carolina examples and 1 North Carolina example of the CAP, and then the task and prompts. Remember, we do not give you a template for this. You'll create your own. We give you examples and then the task and the prompts. I put those in. I have also put you some 605 materials in, your textbooks, and the syllabus for the summer course. I've already put those in. I worked on those this week, and so there those are. And what I've been working on today is getting all of our instructors that North House book. Just a little reminder, this is very important. Do not buy a used strength-based leadership, Strength Finder 2.0. Do not buy a used one. If you do, you will have to buy it a second time, or you'll have to pay the same price for the test. There is an assessment in that book. When you buy a new book, it has the code, and the assessment is free. You get it for the price of the book. And here's the deal. The price of the book and the price of the assessment are the same. They're about $20. And so if you buy a used book and save $3, then you're going to have to spend $20 on the assessment. So you will waste money in the long run. Buy a new book that has a unique code in it, so that when you get it, you can take the assessment. You pay one fee for the book and the assessment. So again, buy a new one. Do not buy a used book. So those are the things that will help you going into the summer. Both the CAP materials, again, I would download them. I would download these things. I would download on Zoom session 15. I would download that. You can be working on that anytime. You can work on that now. Start putting those things together. If you don't want to start on the CAP, you can start on that now. And so those are the things. All right, to tonight's content. Again, I've got a kind of an explanation of how charters and vouchers and choice works. And I've also got a link to the North Carolina Charter. Some of you work for charter schools. You probably know more about it than I do, but here are your resources for those. Now, what I want to spend a few minutes, and I don't want to spend real long on, is sexual harassment. Sexual harassment, as you know, in the era of the U2 movement, or YouTube, Me Too movement, has become a hot topic. I've had this in for quite a while because of personal experience. And I'll tell you a quick story. In the early 90s, we began to become aware of these kinds of things and liability. And I got a call from our human resources department. I was an elementary principal in a small district in the western part of the state, and they said that one of the teachers at our building had filed a sexual harassment complaint. And I thought, oh my Lord, who did she file it against? And then she said, and I was told, well, it was filed against a vendor that comes to your building. And I thought, I don't let vendors in the building, only the people who are approved by the central office. And that would be like, the Pepsi man, the insurance man, the benefits man. And I think there was a couple more. He said, well, the complaint is against the horseman insurance representative. And I was like, that doesn't sound like him, but okay. Tell me my next step. Said, well, you'll need to, we've already interviewed the teacher. And he said that, now she acknowledged that he did not say a word to her. I said, wait a minute now, you're gonna have to help me out here. She has filed a sexual harassment complaint, but she acknowledges that the insurance representative did not speak to her in any way, appropriately or inappropriate. So that is correct. And I said, well, you'll need to explain that to me. I'm not too smart. And the HR person said she heard him ask another teacher out, a young single teacher, and he was single, and he asked her out on a date. And the young lady accepted, and he thought that was the end of it. I knew nothing about it. And the teacher filed a complaint based on, she felt that made a hostile work environment, and that she had been sexually harassed because she heard him ask another teacher out. If I could make that up, you figure that. That's way too intricate for me to make up. Point of the story is this. Things will happen around your building. You have people in and out. You have parents. You have students. You have older students in high school. You have vendors who come in and out of your building. You have people who come for different things. You never know what's going to happen. In the era of Me Too, we've increased our awareness, which is a good thing. We've also increased the number of complaints as well. And so my point in pulling this section out separately is this. You need to spend some time with this document that we've got. This is under week 5 of Zoom session 5. We've already run through this. You need to spend a little bit of time and make sure that you know what the federal law is. And that is one of the things. Hostile work environment is part of that. I was not aware of that at the time. Now, we all understand if somebody says something inappropriate to somebody in a sexual content of a sexual nature. We all understand that. But also, if things that are going on that create a hostile environment in your building, you can also get hit with a complaint as well. And I won't speak to the motivation of people. I don't know. In this case, the teacher who filed the complaint felt like that she was in her, I believe she was in her second year, and she was not doing well. And I think she thought, and she later acknowledged, that if she filed this complaint, that she would be protected as a whistleblower, and when her job, and would not be dismissed for poor job performance. That's kind of how that worked. and so the young man was found, not to have created an environment, because now if he'd asked her out during the school day, but they had a private meeting after school hours in the building, and so he was, he was not, he suffered no repercussions from this. But this was done so you don't know what people's motivation is. He did ask her out in the building, but luckily for him, it was after hours. And so, and it was not an unwelcome advance. The young lady had actually accepted. And so, but people have different reasons for filing complaints of different kinds. You can't stop that, is my point. But you can do things during the regular. I've given you an extraneous example of it can happen to anybody at any time. But there are certain things that you can do to help alleviate these. Again, I can't tell you that people won't file lawsuits or complain, but the idea is, for you to win and not be found liable or negligent in these cases. And so, starting on slide 28, again, this document is under week 5 of our Zoom sessions, and we go through Title IX. We've talked about that. State statutes, all the different things, the different court cases, the North Carolina statute, 115C 407, and it gives you all these things, and it gives gives all the definitions for you. I put this all together for you in one handy dandy place, so that you can go back and review this. I've given you some definitions. I've given you some scenarios, who it can be done by. We've gone further in terms, we talked about sexting, which is also a form of sexual harassment. I've given you some scenarios, some different examples, criminal versus non-criminal. And so, quid pro quo. I mean, this is a lengthy. This is a lengthy presentation, but the good thing about it is it'll take you about 10 minutes to read it, and maybe you spend an hour with it, and you'll be in pretty good shape in terms of sexual harassment. Again, it's about 60 slides. Spend about an hour with that, and any questions that you have should be alleviated from doing that. I won't spend that. It would take us 2 or 3 hours to work through it. But spend some time with this particular one, making sure that you understand all the different facets of sexual harassment. And again, this week's discussion board was find out what your district policy is. And then I'm going to kind of summarize here tonight by saying this. I would involve the police, my resource officer that's assigned to your school, even if all you got in the beginning is that somebody said something inappropriate to me, or I heard something inappropriate. Remember, we're not qualified to do investigations of this sort. You never know where this is going to lead. It may have left the verbal and become physical, and then a crime has occurred. But as you can see, sexual harassment in itself, even if it's verbal, is still a crime. You need to understand that. It's not just bad behavior, it is a crime. And there's state statutes against it, there's federal statutes against it. Make sure that you don't say, well, I'll launch an investigation here and try to keep this in-house. You just don't know where it's going to go. And you don't want to be in the middle of it, and all of a sudden you say, well, I might better get, all of a sudden it's become, there's been some sort of physical contact, of an unwanted source, or there's been threats made, or there's some sort of intimidation, or there's been property damage, some kind of threatening behavior, then all of a sudden you go to the police. They don't like it when you want them to bail you out. They want to be in on it from the very beginning, and they might say, well, um, start your investigation, and if it gets to more serious, let me know, and I'll jump in, and that'll be fine. But I always like to get their input from the very beginning. I don't want to be on the news with the chief of the local police throwing me under the bus by saying things like, well, we're quite sure that a crime occurred, but we can't, we don't really, the evidence has been tainted, or the investigation was flawed, and so there's nothing really that we could do except to apologize to the victim. You don't want to be on that end of that news at 6. Trust me. You will not. Your career will not survive that, even if it was completely innocent. And so my charge to you is if you get a report of sexual harassment, whether it's student, staff, vendor, doesn't matter the relationship, make sure you consult with your SRO. And if you don't have one at your building, you've got one that works at the local secondary school that you can consult with without having to call 911 and have the news crew beat the police to your door. I would call that number that you have. If you're an elementary principal and there's not one at your site, you have a number that you can call, one over to high school or the middle school, and you can talk with them about something like this. This is serious business now. You won't be like a politician who can just answer questions publicly and go on. Since you are a state employee or employee of the district, we can't stand the negative publicity. You won't survive this if you handle things wrong. So again, make sure that you consult with your with your local law enforcement representative that you have access to. We're going to stop our share. I'm going to go now to Dr. Tobias to start with for her input in this. She works in an urban district, and urban districts tend to generate more of these type complaints. I don't know. I don't think there's a difference in the population. I just think sometimes they might be a little more aware. So I'm going to go to Dr. Tobias for her to weigh in on this topic.
So I have a funny personal story, and it is very personal. I told the lady one time who had lost a lot of weight, I said, man, you look really good. You have lost a lot of weight. And she got offended and wrote a letter saying that sort of I created a hostile environment for her. I was literally dumbfounded. I was just trying to boost this lady's.
I know.
A lot of weight. I was trying to compliment her. I mean, and this is going to be even more funnier because I said, I don't roll like that. But, I was trying to give you a compliment. I wanted to say, not my type.
Yeah.
But I kind of held in. But it is, I do have the speech. When I worked in the big building with a lot of coaches and a lot of men, my building doesn't have a lot of men in it now, but it really doesn't matter in this day and age. But when I worked in the building with a lot of coaches, I would at least at the end of the fall semester, I would always give them the speech about sexual harassment, because we ended up, it's like you're getting to know especially the girls, with a lot of girls, I would always give the speech about that. But serious business you could say anything.
Yes.
And out on that.
Well, one of the things that you have to work with coaches, especially men are dumb. I am one, and boys are even dumber. I used to be one. And you have to remind coaches regularly. Again, I used to be one. You're exactly right. You have to remind coaches there is a culture, and that's probably pejorative and it's not fair. But again, I'm talking about myself here. You have to remind men every semester Don't be commenting about, what one of your co-workers is wearing. Don't be commenting about the girls in the high school here and those kinds of things. And don't do victim blaming either. Now, one of the things that bothers me at Gardner Webb, but I hold my tongue on, is the way that our females dress when they come to the cafeteria. My wife was an undergraduate there a long time ago, and she said they were allowed to wear shorts, but they had to be Bermuda shorts that came down to their knees, and they had to wear a polo shirt. They couldn't wear tank tops or any of those. Well, those days are long gone, and our female population, especially the athletes, come to the cafeteria in the middle of the day and in the evening. I mean, dressed inappropriately for public. I'm serious. They're dressed inappropriately. But you have to be careful. The old coach in me wants to say, you need to wear more clothing, but you can't say things like that because
You're
that could be
discriminating under Title IX, Dr. Lamb.
Do what?
I said you're discriminating under Title IX, Dr.
That's
Lamb.
what I mean. That's exactly my point.
As one of my parents told me one time.
And so that's exactly right. That's a form of sexual harassment. If I were to say these young ladies need to dress more appropriately like young ladies in public at a private Baptist college, that would be a Title IX violation. And so I just have to kind of grin and bear it. But that's one of those things where I think it's inappropriate. But we haven't put that in our code of conduct, in our dress code for the college. And so I guess I know not. At least I'm smart enough not to say anything. I can still think it. That this is not the way that we should be portraying our campus and our faith and our institution. I mean, wearing underwear to lunch, but that's what's happening. But again, you're exactly right. I can't say that. And so again, Dr. Tobias has hit the nail on the head. Certain groups, and that's probably pejorative on their part, but you got to remind them, watch your comments, watch, to co-workers and especially to the athletes that you coach. You got to be careful about that because it creates a hostile environment. But yeah, I know it's just one of the things, you can't make this up. You can't believe that somebody would be angry that you pointed out that they look good because they'd lost weight. But I guess maybe she thought that nobody noticed, or that you shouldn't have pointed that out. I don't understand. That's kind of like.
Yeah, she just didn't like me, and it was something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was just like the second grade teacher that I had that filed a complaint. She was afraid that I was going to non-renew her. That was back in the days of, at the end of the second year, you could let them go. And she was afraid she was going to let go because she wasn't a very good teacher. And I'm guessing her family were educators. And I guess somebody had told her, if you file a complaint and they try to let you go, you can claim that you were a whistleblower and they're only letting you go because you complained, and they wouldn't dare let you go now. And so I think that might have been it. But you're exactly right. Probably that she just didn't like you. So people will interpret what you say. Dr. Massengill, I'm going to go to you now for your take.
I've got just a couple things I would say. Number one, probably one of the first tasks you guys will have as an AP, if you've not already got the task, is supervision of bus drivers and other classified staff members. In my experience, those are the most frequent cases of the types of things that we're talking about because they have the most opportunity for unsupervised time. And so do all you can to limit those opportunities for unsupervised time. You don't want two custodians working together in a building by themselves for long lengths of period, and bus drivers on bus lot at 5 o'clock in the morning by themselves. if you can avoid it. Because every case that I've had to deal with and participate in investigation, those are the types of situations that created those opportunities.
Lack of supervision.
So minimize those opportunities as much as possible. And then in my professional experience, I've gone from a county where this was not a big deal to now I'm in New Hanover County, where Title IX is the buzzword because of some things that we're going through legally with our previous superintendent and board. And so Title IX complaints have their own system in New Hanover County for investigation, and we're one of the only counties in the state that have a Title IX director. My guess is that we're probably at the forefront of this, not because we wanted to be, but because we had to be. And this is coming to schools and districts near you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And my dichotomy tonight is Dr. Tobias is in an urban district that generally are kind of ahead on this, just like we were in Charlotte. Dr. Massengill has just moved to a district because of need, and also they at Wilmington, one of the larger cities in the state. When Dr. Massengill, as he just mentioned, was in Moore County, this wasn't even on the radar. But it's coming to a school system near you is my point. And so, as I tell you all the time, make sure you find out what your local district policies are. Dr. Massengill just mentioned they've got a whole separate policy and path for Title IX and got a Title IX director. We had a Title IX director when I was in Charlotte Mecklenburg. We've got one at Gardner Webb. When I was in the 2 rural districts that I worked in the western part of the state, they couldn't count up to 9, much less have a Title IX director. They only got to like Title III or 4. They couldn't have gotten to 9. And so it's all relative, and you got to know what the process is in your district. But it's coming. That's what I'm saying. In this era, it's coming. Just give it a minute. It'll be there. And the ancillary to that, and I'm glad Dr. Massengill brought this up. This was the point that I wanted to kind of close with tonight. You need to find out what the governance system is in your district for classified employees. Let me explain that. When I was in Rutherford County and I was in Burke County, I had to hire my own bus drivers, my own custodians. I had to hire my own cafeteria workers. Those are all classified employees. I had to do that. I had to not only hire them, I had to fire them and supervise them. And as Dr. Massengill just said, when you're in a smaller, more rural county, that's all on your plate. And you've got to try to minimize times, and you've got to work with them and about their behavior. Now, when I was in Charlotte Mecklenburg, I didn't have to do any of that. We had a custodial supervisor that hired and fired them, that supervised them, that evaluated them. We had the same for the transportation, but in terms of bus drivers, same for cafeteria workers. I didn't have to do anything with any classified employees there. That was somebody else's responsibility. And if it went bad on them. In the smaller districts, it was all on me. So again, know the governance of how classified employees are. That they're going to be, I hate to say this, but you will find it out soon enough. They're going to be the bane of your existence. They're going to be if they're yours to hire, fire, and supervise, it will not be fun. And so you will have to work harder and more with them than your faculty. If you're lucky enough to be in a larger district that takes care of that for you, that's a blessing. I can tell you that. It is a blessing. All right. My half hour is up. Anybody have anything else on sexual harassment that they'd like to add? I'm going to open the floor up now. Unmute yourself. The first question tonight is task stream. Shawana, you have a question on task stream.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Looking at the competency folio,
Right?
I just want to make sure for each of the strands.
Yes, each of the 21.
We
Got to
need,
have one artifact each semester for a total of 3. And when you open the strand, it tells you, where it should come from, and you can go back and get one from a previous evidence artifact if you want to, or you can do open-ended, because they aren't all skipped in OMA like we did this semester. But please remember, do not submit that thing until the end of the summer.
Okay.
There is a way that you have to, once you have it complete, until you get it complete, you just request comments from Dr. Massengill or Dr. Tobias. We got her comments working this week. We got her role straightened out where task stream wasn't recognizing her as a student, and I went in and linked all of y'all to her. So we're good on that. So put them in, request comments. At the end of next semester, when your third and final round is in, at that point, it will be due. And so what we will do at that time is I will teach you how to upload it into your DRF portfolio it's due for evaluation at that time. But please don't move it now. When we move it, I can't move it back.
Okay.
That's one of them, I can't undo things. And
All right.
so, but yes, thank you for reminding me to do that. Now, task stream doesn't close. It doesn't go by semester. You can continue working in the interim and just keep right on going. Now, Blackboard, I'm guessing, will go down Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It always goes down. One year it went down while we were at graduation. And so I don't know. I won't guarantee it being up past 10 o'clock Saturday morning.
Okay.
And then, it may stay down for a day, and it may be a week before it comes back. But task stream, I run task stream, it stays open all the time. And so you can work on your competency folio, and these folks, you stay linked to them, and you'll be linked to them again in the summer. So you can request comments in task stream anytime. That's why we don't get too bent out of shape about that. Normally what happens is once you finish your evidences toward the end of the semester, then you go back and start pulling competencies, your artifacts. If you can do them now, it shouldn't take you but a couple of hours.
Okay.
You're just uploading things, just screenshots, documents, pictures, that kind of stuff. It's not like you've got to sit and write, War and Peace. You just upload the thing. It's an artifact folio. So it's about a 2-hour process.
We want it labeled like the example where we say AppSell.
Yeah, just say this one can, this AppSell, digital or not open-ended. That's all you have to do.
Okay.
It's not. You've written your competency analysis in OMA task 4 and skip task 4 this semester. What I found, and the reason why I took that piece out of all Kate wanted was to see the artifacts, and it was delaying us forever to write the analysis with the artifact, and so we pulled that out and put them at the end of each of the evidences. And so makes the competency folio fairly easy.
Yes.
And fairly quick. It's not a couple hours on that. You knock that out. It's good. The main thing is being organized and knowing where your stuff is.
Yes.
Where I can go and find it. That's always the issue. And so if you'll notice on your internship log for your open-ended competencies, I've got a column on there that says proof. That's not for me. That's for you as a reminder. I've got something for this and where it is.
Okay.
You folks are still young enough. You don't need those little mnemonic tricks to trigger your memory. I've got notes written all over me now. I'm going to be like kindergartners for long, that my wife's going to have to pin a note on my shirt to make sure that I get home.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's a great question. What's next? We got anything else that anybody needs answered tonight? Well, this has certainly been a great semester. This may be my favorite of all time. None of you are going to have to apply to have your grade converted to pass-fail. I can tell you that. You've all done tremendous work this semester. I don't believe I've ever had 2 groups that from top to bottom did as great as this group has done. Grading was really easy. Y'all blew the top off the points. Your work was all great. As a group, you got the best scores I've ever seen in task stream. couldn't have been better. And I'll say it again, if you'd had a better instructor, you could have really done great things. So I'm very pleased. I take zero credit. It's all up to you. You know, this program is about your personal growth and development. And we're just supposed to be the guide on the sides rather than the sage on the stage. Sage on the stage. We're just trying to help you achieve your potential. You've had two good coaches and people who've been very involved with you this semester. They've showed up every week. Believe it or not, I never tell them what I'm going to ask them. I do that so they're paying attention and they've read ahead. They're in training. They're going to have their own class this summer. And so, part of that is knowing what your topic's going to be. And believe it or not, I actually have a lesson plan every week. I know y'all don't believe that, but I really do. But part of that is the conditioning part of staying up with it. And so I apologize to them for that, but that's just one of those training techniques that seems to work pretty good. If you don't know what you're going to be asked, you prepare for everything. So that's just old school, I guess. But I would like to thank Dr. Massengale and Dr. Tobias. It's been a great semester, and all of you. It's been.
Can I add a piece about the competency reflections? Because I've had several questions that I think I could clarify for folks. Guys, it's okay for those to be personal in nature because it's your reflection. And so I had a couple candidates that were really concerned about, well, I want to say that, the principal could have done a better job at this, but I didn't because I didn't want them to see it. This is for us to review your growth in those particular competencies. So put in there what you want to put in there based on what it's asking for, and don't be bashful about it. And the other piece is just don't overthink it. I think both the folks I've talked to this week in coaching sessions about these competency reflections are really making them more than what they really are. Yeah. As long as the artifact is aligned to what it's asking and you've got a reflection there, you're going to be fine.
You're fine. Yeah, don't overthink it. This is not rocket science. This is just the state wants to make sure that you really did have a clinical experience. In the days when I came through, we were full-time interns. We were paid, and that's what you did. But this is a different vision, and they struggle with, how do we know these people are doing this stuff? Well, if you read their evidences, you'd see that they're doing this stuff. Well, we don't want to read those things. Those things are hundreds of pages long. We just want stuff. We want something we can just look at and know that they've done. Okay, well then we'll do artifacts. And that's why we refer to them as evidence artifacts. You write 6 evidences, do clinical work, and you generate artifacts. The state wants something quick and easy. Well, not DPI so much as the General Assembly and the state board. They want something quick and easy that they can just look at, a visual. They need pictures in their book. I guess that's what helps them. And so again, as Dr. Mask said, don't overthink it. Just as long as you've got the stuff, you're good. Let's see.
Dr. Lamb?
Yes.
I'm having a hard time getting my internship log signed. I think my principal
Don't worry about it at all. We've waived that this semester.
Okay.
Don't
so
worry
I should
about
just
that.
upload it without a signature?
There you go. Thank you, Mary. No, you don't have to do that. I mean, don't risk your life trying to trace somebody down to get a signature. No, that's fine. And if we get to the end, I've already made a initial request to the university. If we get to the end of the program at the end of the summer and you still can't get back around your people, we're going to do a digital signature that they can do online. We'll do that. Those things, they eventually have to, we have them signed off on every semester because of the possibility of principals changing schools and our candidates changing schools as well. And we had some problems with, you get a new principal in, you're in the last semester of your program, they say, I don't know what she did the first 2, 3, or 4 semesters. And so if we had that signed log, then that person only has to sign off on the time that you were under their direction. And that happens a lot more than you think. About 25% of the people who come through our program either change schools or change principals during the program. And it became such a big thing, we broke it down into by semester, get it signed. So the state says only the final one has to be what they call attest, but the last one is all it has to be signed off on.
Okay. Thank you.
You're good. We're good for that part. Geraldine asked a question. Are we to upload for our intern log in Classroom? You can put your internship log in the competency folio at the end and request comments on it. You've got to put your competencies in that folio. So I hope that's the explanation. Again, please do not upload this semester's log into your DRF portfolio where you put your evidences. That one's for the final one again when you get all 3 of them done. And then we'll evaluate those at the end. And so along the way, they just have to go into the competency folio, and it's not, yeah, it's what she did. Thanks. When is the last day? As I said, I don't know when. I wouldn't plan on Blackboard being available past mid-morning on Saturday. When it comes back online, you may or may not have access to this semester shell. Usually if they've rolled you, you won't. If they've rolled you into the next shell, my suspicion is they'll take it down over the weekend. They'll keep it down for a few days, and when it comes back, you'll be in your summer shells. And I'm not sure you can continue to put work in these or not. Task Stream, there is no limit on Task Stream. It's open every day. It stays open. 24/7 I run that, so I never sleep. All right, if anybody got great questions, we will make sure we get all of our housekeeping taken care of tonight.
Dr. Lamb, I'm preparing for a staff meeting tomorrow. Could you guide me to where I could find the statute where teachers contracted went from 205 days to 215 days?
All right, Dr. Massengill.
I can put a link in the chat box for that.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, there's a link. I've got that in our course materials, but there's actually a link. Thank you. I'm glad. I knew you would know where that one is. There's actual link. I read that recently. And so, yes,
I have several staff members that are swearing the legislators tried to pull a fast one on them this week.
They did.
Changed into August 17th.
They're right. They did. They added 5 additional days of instruction, no extra pay, and we're all coming back on the 17th, required by law.
That's correct.
Which 5 extra? When I look back at our stuff, when we had the calendar for last year, that one had 215 days in it already.
So now we have 220 days of instruction because they added 5 days of remote instruction that all districts have to account for, and all districts have to report back unless they're on modified or year-round calendar. Students have to come back on the 17th of August.
Yeah.
So they pulled a fast one and a big one.
My county's presentation showed us they come back on the 17th of August and they're done on June 3rd. So it was still 215 days.
But you've got 5 days of remote instruction there too. So what a lot of counties are doing is they're making work days remote instruction days.
You got 3 options.
And so teachers are still going to have to prepare remote instruction lessons for the days that are work days. Otherwise, they've got to add 5 days to the calendar, and teachers don't get paid an additional penny because
that's correct.
Unless the locality is paying it, because the state did not give any additional money for that unfunded mandate.
You got 3 options. You either go deeper into the season, you take teacher work days, or you work Saturdays.
Okay.
Pick your poison.
And for you secondary folks, you could probably expect some teaching cuts because they also fully implemented the K-3 class size reductions that were to go into effect this year, and they provided no additional teaching allotment for K-3 for that. So that means they're going to be coming out of 412.
So what I'm guessing is we're going to see class size go to 33.
At least.
Right now they're 30. And so I'm guessing we're going to see at least 33, 34. That was a discussion at the state board meeting, I think, last week. one of those podcasts that I listen to. It makes, I don't know whether I feel dumber or smarter after I listen to those, quite honest. In comparison, I feel smarter, but just listening to them makes me dumber. But yes, you were already at 215 days. You're going to go to 220. I heard that today. And so, you know, when you add more days, you've got three options always. You go longer, you take teacher work days, or you take Saturdays. You know, that's just like snow days. It's the same function. Those are your three choices.
So by taking the teacher work days, you're doing 215, but you don't get your teacher work day.
That's correct.
Which is how they skirted around paying those 5 days. Okay.
Yeah, and Dr. Massingill just pointed out there'll be no class size waivers in K3 next year. So that's an unfunded mandate as well. And so all these things.
And they also, sorry, I'm on my soapbox.
Yeah.
They also removed the income limit and are trying to increase substantially the amount of money going towards charter school vouchers. And so if that law goes, that was introduced yesterday by Senator Ralph Heiss. If it goes into effect, hopefully the governor will veto it, and it'll be the governor's veto will be upheld. But any student, regardless of income, could apply for an opportunity voucher and go to a private school using public tax dollars. So they're trying to do some stuff while folks are not paying attention. So the link I shared is from NCASA. It's an overview of everything that was in the bill. If your principals have not shared that with your staffs, I would encourage you to have them do so, suggest that they do so, because teachers need to be aware of this mess, because it's definitely going to affect them.
Did you put that in the chat yet? I see your K3 size.
I think I sent it to someone. I think I sent it to Ebony privately by accident. Here we go.
Okay.
Let me send it again.
Yeah, you can send it back to everyone. But this is the kind of things that we talked about this summer, about this spring in funding. Please remember, in terms of the funding of public education, every time we cut taxes, every time we give somebody else money, every time we give incentives for corporations to come, all of those come straight from the state budget for public education, North or South Carolina. That's where that money comes from. And so when you talk about, oh, we're going to give, the state's going to give these incentives, you know, $100 million to build this auto plant in this county, and you say, well, wow, that's wonderful. That'll bring some jobs. No, what that means, that's another $100,000 out of the school's budget. That's what that means. And every time there's been a tax cut, oh, we're going to cut taxes and stimulate the economy. We're going to cut $100 million taxes. That's $100 million out of school budget. Every time one of those three things happens, that's money out of the state school budget. And so what you get is unfunded mandates. That's just what you get. So, that's it. So my closing story tonight, there's a local charter school here, and I'm not anti-charter school. I can't get my phone to turn on. And so when I came home today, I'm at Lake Norman. When I came home today, there was a big billboard, electronic billboard on I-77, congratulating a graduate class of 2020 from that charter school. And I like the charter school. The head of school there was one of my students. Their executive this part of the world was one of my doctoral students. I like them. I appreciate what they do. But here's the irony, and see, irony is my favorite alliteration. If you can afford to buy a billboard, you probably should have been in private school. We didn't need to be paying for your child to go to a charter school if you can afford a billboard. A billboard on 77, an electronic one with his picture on it. I don't know what that costs. My understanding is that's $2,000 a day, something like that. I don't know how many days it'll be up, but and that's kind of the irony here in terms of some of these things. Charter schools, the notion is great, the execution not so much sometimes. What a certain segment of the population is asking us to do is fund a private education for them. The problem with that is we have to take money from public education to do that. Again, money to charter schools, money to vouchers, money to opportunity grants, all those things, incentives for companies, tax cuts, all of that affects the bottom line, as you've learned this semester. What we have to educate the populace. All right, thank you all again. I can't be thankful enough. I appreciate the students and the coaches this semester. We've had a great time. Remember, we're back on. Keep on working on your competency folios, your evidences. We're back on the week of the 18th of May. So what's that? A week and a half. We're back at it again. Make sure you look in every day in Blackboard who your course pops up in terms of what night your course will be this summer. Y'all are going to have Dr. Stedman, I believe. I believe he's going to meet on Tuesday nights at 7. He has board meetings on Monday and church on Wednesday, so I think he's going to meet Tuesdays at 7 with Dr. Stedman. So y'all will love him. He's a much nicer fellow than I am. And remind him, I guess it'd be harassment if you remind him, but remind him that he's a month older than I am next time you see him. He's the only person in the world that's older than me. He's 1 month older than me. So remind him of that when you see him. I'll see you all again soon. I've enjoyed it. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.